Hey, hello, and welcome back to Civic Concord, a podcast where we share information, highlight important topics, and hear directly from people involved in town government. This is a Minuteman Media Network production. I'm here in the studio today to talk with Ethan Herberman, a heat pump coach with the Concord Municipal Light Plant. Hi, Ethan.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at CMLP?
Well, I'm as you said, a heating and cooling coach, also known as a specialist. For 5 years now, I have tried to help people along in their journey from fossil fuels to heat pump heating and cooling, also helping with insulation and weatherization, which goes along with it. And it's a great thing to do. I'm also a West Concord resident.
Okay.
And I love the community, and I think heat pump technology is something a lot of people should consider.
Great. So one of the reasons you're here today is because we are talking about an event that's coming up, which is the Does It Work Midwinter Home Tour. Can you tell us about those events, what homes are being toured, and what are we talking about here? What work?
What's the it, and does it work? Well, I see it as the polar opposite, literally, of the Concord Museum's June garden tours. That's when people welcome you to their homes and show you their prized possessions. Except in this case, the prized possession isn't petunias, it's an induction stove or solar panels or superb insulation or particularly heat pumps. The reason we're scheduling this for January 31st, smack dab in the heart of winter, is to let people feel for themselves beyond doubt that heat pumps on their own can keep you comfortable and cozy on Concord's coldest days. You don't need backup.
Well, that is great. And I can say that I don't live in Concord. I live in a neighboring community, but I did recently switch to heat pumps, and we talked a little bit about that before. And that is our sole source of heat at my home. And switched over from oil, and we're entering our second winter. So I can answer the question. It does work.
Great.
It does work for me. But I think, and I think one of the things that is really critical is the insulation and making sure that everything is really tight.
Yes, absolutely.
So that it can work as it's intended.
Anecdote. So 3 winters, the winter of 23, in February, one night it went down to -12. And my fellow heat pump coach, Kim Slack, and I then phoned around to people we knew were relying exclusively on heat pump heating and asked how they did. And it turned out, by coincidence, that the Boston Globe did the same thing on a larger scale. And we all came to the same conclusion and found the same kind of data, that if you had good insulation and you had double pane windows, you weren't getting leaks of air in and out, and you had cold climate air source heat pumps, because there's other kinds, cold climate air source heat pumps. With all of that, you did fine at -12. But if you had deficiencies in insulation, you didn't necessarily, it isn't that you didn't get any heat, but say a family in West Concord that wanted 68 only got 59 degrees. That's as good as it could get. In some cases, if you had exposed pipes that were outside the envelope, the environmentally controlled envelope of the house, you could actually have burst pipes. So insulation is really critical, which is why when I counsel people, the first thing just about that we talk about is getting a home energy assessment. Somebody comes to your house, either from Mass Save or from Energy New England. They figure out how well you're doing in terms of insulation and air sealing, weatherization, we call it, how well you're doing, what you could do to improve it. And that's the first step, because there can be unfortunate results with heat pumps, and people complain, and then it gets on social media, and it doesn't look good. But usually these problems are traced back to deficiencies in insulation or in the equipment or in the sizing of the equipment.
Yeah, I think for my house anyway, we saw such a huge difference with the insulation that it was really shocking. I think we thought our house was fairly well insulated, and then the kind of months leading up into winter when we were first using our heating system, we realized that climate was controlled so much easier. We didn't even have to turn the heat on until later because it was, things were really kind of well preserved.
Right.
The climate in the household.
So that's the idea behind the garden tour.
Okay.
That, maybe you heard something negative about it or you're just not sure, because it's a big step to pay thousands of dollars and risk the comfort of your family on this very new technology. I mean, think about it. For hundreds of thousands of years, human beings and human beings' ancestors heated stuff, burned stuff to stay warm. And this is a totally new direction. You aren't burning stuff or raising it to combustion temperatures. So with this new technology that costs a lot of money, it's easy to just slide into saying, well, I'm just going to do it the old way.
Yeah, I can see that.
And just let's be safe and not take any chances. So the tour is the way you can, free of charge, you can come to somebody's house, drink a cup of hot mulled cider, meet your neighbors, and feel for yourself that it works, and talk to the homeowner about what it's like to live with these things, what it's like to pay for these things. You can really find out firsthand if it's something that you're comfortable with.
Yeah, I think, doing your market research for such a major investment in your home and switching systems, it's always helpful to talk to experts like yourself and talk to, people in the field, but really your neighbors who are experiencing it. I think that's a really great way to kind of educate people. One of the reasons I love doing this podcast is I really do learn a lot of the answers for things that I don't know about. And while I am an owner of a heat pump, I would love to hear more about, some of the details about the technology. Like how does this work? How is this an effective way to heat your home? Can you kind of back up and do a heat pump 101?
Sure. So a heat pump, in one phrase, is an air conditioner that runs in reverse. So a standard air conditioner, in fact, if you took a window air conditioner out of its window and flipped it around and put it in backwards, you'd have a crude heat pump.
Okay.
So in the summertime, the heat pump pumps excess heat out of your house from inside to outside. In the winter, it pumps heat from outside to inside. Now, here's where you need a little bit more explanation, because how, when it's, say, 5 degrees out, are you going to pump enough heat from the outside into your home to raise the indoor temperature to, say, 70 degrees? How's that ever going to happen? Well, to you, 5 degrees is cold, but to the refrigerant running through the pipes of the heat pump, inside, outside, 5 degrees is actually quite warm. It's much colder than 5 degrees. So, as you know, heat moves from a warmer place to a colder place. So the heat of the outside at 5 degrees heats the refrigerant. It heats it so much that the refrigerant literally boils. It changes its state to gas, and that pulls in even more heat from the out of doors. And then the heat pump machinery squeezes, compresses the gaseous refrigerant, and that heats it up even more. So the refrigerant coming back into your house after going outside on that cold winter day could be 130 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than when it left the house. Wow. And that's how you heat with the frigid outdoor air.
That's pretty impressive technology. And so how would you say that efficiency compares between a heat pump and a traditional oil furnace or a gas boiler in very cold weather?
Sure. Well, the laws of physics would prevent a fuel that you burn from being more than 100% efficient. I mean, you're always going to have waste heat, and you can only turn the energy in the fuel into heat energy, then you're out of fuel. So 100% is the absolute limit, and even the best boilers and furnaces don't get quite that high. A heat pump, on the other hand, is not making any heat itself. It's just moving heat around, as I said. So you can get way over 100% efficiency. So let's imagine a pretty mediocre system, just barely good enough for us to give for either Mass Save or CMLP to give it a rebate.
Mm-hmm.
At that magic number of 5 degrees, it would be no worse than 175% efficient. In other words, for each amount of electricity you put into the heat pump to make it go, because it runs on electricity, you would get 1.75 times that much energy, heat energy, back out of it. Now let's imagine a really good system. And let's imagine that it's 50 degrees out, because the heat pump gets more efficient as the outdoor temperature rises. Now your system might be 400% efficient. To belabor the point, if you put in X amount of electrical energy to make it go, you get back 4 times that much heat energy. So as you can see, it's a very efficient energy saving ultimately when compared with a fossil fuel way to heat your home. And it's also a very efficient air conditioner, usually significantly more efficient than a standard central AC.
And so I think a question on people's minds might be, how much would this cost to install, and how do we work through some of the questions about, are there still incentives? How can CMLP help? I mean, I can say from my own perspective, we did work with Mass Saves, and there were a lot of benefits. There was a 0 interest loan. There was some tax credits and rebates, and so there it all kind of, the math worked out significantly for my house. But so I guess, where are we now, and how much does this cost, and how can people kind of tackle that?
Okay, that's a huge question.
Yeah, sorry.
So,
Maybe
so
we can break it out.
let's break it down. So first of all, how much it costs.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one I will have the most trouble answering, because we're in a state of flux right now. Heat pumps have moved over to a different refrigerant, which, if it leaks, is more environmentally benign than the previous refrigerant.
That's good.
Inflation, of course, is here,
Mm-hmm.
and tariffs are here. So it's really important when you're looking for a heat pump to take advantage of the service that we coaches provide, which is you get up to 3 free quotes from installers, and we can provide you with a list of installers who work in this area.
That's great.
And get 3 quotes from them, or from, frankly, anyone, any certified installer you want. And we can go over it and compare it, and there's always going to be different prices, and we can talk about what you get for the cost. If it is too much, I don't think these contractors want to price themselves out of the market, but if it is too much, you haven't lost anything but a little time.
Mm-hmm.
But if it is affordable, and we talk about what the operating costs are going to be going forward,
Mm-hmm.
so what you'll save relative to, say, oil, if you get this. So you can do a cost analysis based on your situation and what you are being quoted. Now, there is an average based on just a few, not many homes, because this new situation hasn't been around for more than just about a year now, with the refrigerants and the tariffs and all of that. So this is so general.
Mm-hmm.
$21.19 per square foot of heated space in your home is about what it would cost to get the number of heated square feet in your home, and multiply by 21.19, and you'll come up with a very ballpark estimate. Now, there's such differences here. If you reused your ducts, it turned out you've got great ducts, you can just reuse them and not add any more piping or ducts.
Right.
That really brings the price down. If you have long runs, you have to send the piping through a long, difficult space, that increases the price. If you have to add ducts from no ducts, that's pretty expensive too. So that is a very, very general figure. Now, if you want me to move right on to incentives.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, all right. So there are no more tax credits, but there are programs which might more than offset what you're losing by not having tax credits. So CMLP either equals or exceeds Mass Save in rebates. So if you're a gas customer, you go with Mass Save. If you're a non-gas customer, oil, propane, ETS, electrical resistance, you go with us.
Okay.
You're probably going to get from Mass Save, if you're a standard size Concord home, and I'm not going into the formulas, it might be less for a smaller home, would be less for a smaller home. You'll get a rebate if you're completely converting to heat pumps of $8,500.
Oh, wow.
If you do that with CMLP, your rebate's going to be, again, for a standard size Concord home, you're probably going to get $10,000 as your rebate. In addition to that, you get the non-monetary incentives of counseling and, my Kim or me staying with you through the whole project, helping you out even afterwards with maintenance and
Wow.
keeping up with the warranty. And so you get a lot of non-monetary help. You also get a whole system, probably too complicated to completely describe here, of loans. You mentioned the
Yes.
heat loan from Mass Save. 0 interest, $25,000, 5-year term. Now there is a loan program for everyone, not just Mass Save people, called the ESHLP, Energy Saver Home Loan Program. Let me just jump in here. Just everybody go to concordcleancomfort.org and you can get all of these links and names and all of that. And you don't have to be scribbling this stuff down. Okay, Energy Saver Home Loan Program. That is a state program where if your income is below approximately $205,000 a year, you can get up to $100,000 in a loan that is either 2% interest, or if your income is below about $123,000 or maybe $122,000, it's 0.5% interest, repayable in 20 years.
Wow.
And this can cover heat pumps and insulation and an induction stove and solar panels and an EV car charger. And in addition to the direct energy efficient amenities you might add, changes to your home to accommodate those amenities, like a new roof to accommodate the solar panels, tree pruning to make sure that more sunlight falls on the solar panels. You can
totally outfit
outfit your home. You can do everything that you see
That's smart.
People doing during the heat pump tour, and you can actually do it because it's not something you have to cough up all the money right away. And so there is that. Now that would sound good enough, but wait, as they say in the commercials, there's more. Now it looks like there's going to be a new state program called MLPZ that's going to be like the Mass Save loan you got, the heat loan, but it's going to be for everybody else who wasn't eligible for the heat loan. It's the people who live in the MLPs, the municipal light plants, like Concord Municipal Light Plant. And that's going to be basically, it sounds like the same, the $5,000, 0 interest, repayable in 5 years. So there's going to be that. And you can combine these. You can get a heat loan or an MLPZ loan, assuming hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll come on board, together with an ESHLP loan. So there's a lot of ways to make this doable.
Yeah, I think, when we were considering switching over, we were looking into the technology. Is this going to be, is this going to work to heat and cool our home? And secondly, does the math pencil out for us to invest in this? And both things were true for us. And we didn't even have a coach. So for folks in Concord, you have even more resources here to help walk you through the process. And I think when you were talking about, the different designs, so like ductless or ducted New England homes, there's a lot of variation in homes in Concord. And I think a lot of systems would, there's some systems could be too big or too small. And it's just there's so many nuances in different homes. How do you How can you talk about getting the right system for your home? And is that through the quote process that kind of you have the professionals in your home to kind of do that analysis?
Well, there's two main ways in which we try to make sure that people get the right system.
Okay.
Because that is really crucial. The cardinal error with heat pumps, you might think it's that they're too small and you're cold and that's terrible, but that's actually a rare occurrence. The main faux pas with heat pumps is too large.
Okay.
People are nervous.
Really?
People are nervous. Let's get a big system. Let's make sure nothing goes wrong at low temperatures. The contractors would love to sell you a big system because they make more money off that. If you get an oversized system, it's fine at, say, 5 degrees, as the magic 5-degree number. But when you get up to higher temperatures, 40, 50, 60, when you still need heat, it's too big. And that means it cycles, goes on and off, on and off. Blast of warm air off, blast of warm air off. That wears it out too quickly. It costs you more on your electric bill. And on the air conditioning side of things, when the heat pump is being an air conditioner, it's worse. Because when it doesn't go as it should, and as it should means almost continuously at a lowest possible level, when it's cycling on and off and on and off because it's too big, you lose the dehumidification feature, which many people like. Maybe you've been in a restaurant or a theater in July when you walk in, it's super cold and super clammy.
Yeah.
That's an oversized AC. That's what you get when you lose the dehumidification. And so you really want it to be the right size. Now, in order to get a whole home heat pump rebate. It's the big rebate I mentioned where you're changing your home over completely. We can also talk about partial home situations, which are a little different and a lower rebate. But we're talking about whole home, whether you're going through Mass Save or you're going through CMLP, you're required to get something called a manual J heat load calculation. Load in this circumstance means requirement. A heat requirement calculation. How much heat does your house need? And someone, usually the installer, sometimes an independent contractor who does just these things, will come through your home, will measure each room exactly. We'll type that into software, the dimensions of the room, as well as what kind of exterior walls you have, what kind of windows you have, what kind of roof insulation you have, what kind of basement insulation you have, how many people live in the house, how this house sits on its lot, how the sun hits the house or comes through the windows, and many other factors all go into the manual J software, and out comes a calculation of how much heat your home requires to be 70 degrees inside when it is 8 degrees outside. The benchmark, the as they call it, the design temperature for Concord is 8 degrees. So then you want a heat pump system that meets, and for the rebate, you have to get a heat pump system which roughly meets that target. It can be 90% of the target. It can go all the way up to 120% of the target, but it has to roughly meet that target to prevent the oversizing issue I mentioned and undersizing.
Okay, great. There's been a lot of information shared here, and I'm glad you shared the website that
yes.
You want to say
Concord,
again?
Concord, one word, ConcordCleanComfort.org.
Okay.
And that will lead you. It's a kind of central clearinghouse for information. You can get coaching. You can find out more about the financial incentives, about how heat pumps work, and basically everything we've been talking about, including signing up for the Does It Work Midwinter Home Tour.
So those tours, do you want to talk a little bit about when they are and what people can expect when they come?
Well, they're going to be January 31st in the afternoon. Right. There's going to be 2 of them. So you can go to 2 different houses if you want. Somebody like, perhaps I will be at your house, but somebody from CMLP will be there. Somebody from Energy New England will be there. You can talk to the homeowner. So you can talk about everything you see there, which you'll see that there are different homes with different types of energy saving technologies. You can talk to the coaches, Energy New England. You can talk to the homeowners about what it's like to have these things. You can actually see them. You can touch them. You can drink the cider, which is being mulled for you on an induction stove.
Okay.
And you can talk to your neighbors who might have some, or just meet people of like mind, perhaps. We didn't touch on partial home, where we touched on it. We didn't talk about partial home heat pumps. So for various, it isn't our mission at CMLP to say to everyone, get a heat pump. Because some homes and some people's situation doesn't allow, well, I should say a whole home heat pump, to take over your whole heating task. Some homes, it isn't really the best idea. For example, you might have problems with insulation, and then it's probably not, with a home with deficient insulation, you probably don't want to do a whole home heat pump system.
It's not all or nothing.
Then it's not all or nothing. Then there are homes that are very beautiful and sometimes very expensive, sometimes called acorn houses, or just a second, deck houses, acorn houses, deck houses. More general name is contemporary modern houses.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And they have walls of windows.
Yes.
And overlooking forest or water or whatever. It's beautiful. And they have interesting roof lines, sometimes very shallow, and sometimes no basement, a slab. So with these houses, it's very hard to put insulation in the roof. And windows if they're triple pane, great, but few have that. If they're double pane even, it's not the greatest insulator. So having a whole home heat pump try to heat that home year round might be prohibitively expensive. So what we recommend for people who, for one reason or another, are not suited to or just don't want to commit to whole home heat pump heating, nothing else, we offer, and so does Mass Save, a partial home rebate for, say, a heat pump that heats one room, or a heat pump system that heats the whole house, but just down to, say, 30 degrees, and below that, the fossil fuel or other heat source kicks in. So that's certainly something. And I mean, let's say that you only heat your home with heat pumps over 30 degrees. Over 30 degrees is still about 80% of our cooling season. So you're doing a lot. You're doing a lot to reduce your carbon footprint. Because as you can imagine, with Concord now being, Concord electricity is completely from non-carbon emitting sources. If you get a whole home heat pump, you're doing a tremendous amount to reducing your emissions. If you get a partial home, you're still doing a good amount to reducing your emissions. And the rebates available from us and CMLP and Mass Save are smaller. There's a formula. It would be a lot to get into now, but let's just say that the average Concord-sized home that goes for partial home ends up with a rebate of between $3,000 and $6,000. But it's definitely a way to go for some people.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's good to know. People might be interested in exploring that as one of the options.
And I wanted to add too about Concord homes, as they are, many homes have been struggling with getting air conditioning as the summers get hotter and hotter. And heat pumps can be a solution because you can get central air conditioning without ducts. And it's not that nothing goes between the outdoor unit and the indoor unit. You have a 3-inch pipe, but it's much smaller than a duct, and it's much simpler and cheaper to install. So often a home can have mainly ductless heating and cooling.
Mm-hmm.
Usually a few small children's bedrooms still need a little bit of ductwork, but you can have, by and large, ductless, mini split, very efficient heating and cooling, and you don't have to tear open everything and put in a new duct system.
Yeah, that's what I have, and we didn't have central air before, so that was a huge benefit. And but I think honestly with the insulation, it really, you turn it on a little bit and then it keeps it cool in the summer for quite a while. So
That's great.
yeah,
Glad you're having such a good
I
experience.
am. It's going pretty well. It was second winter. It's been colder this winter too. So yes, I can speak to that. Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this. I hope everyone that's interested will go to concordcleancomfort.org. Take a look at this event that's coming up on the 31st. And if you are interested, check out all the links. And Ethan's here for you to answer your questions.
Yep. So the coaches are available. You can sign up. It's absolutely no cost. You can have a 45-minute virtual call and discuss your home specifically and how it might, how suitable it might be and how you could best start the journey to heat pumps.
That's a huge resource. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Bye.
Bye.